In this video, we'll learn about blobs in JavaScript and how you can use them to deal with file-like data in the browser. By the end of the video, you'll find out about object URLs, base64 strings, and more. Hey guys, and welcome to Azul Coding. To get started, I've set up some basic HTML and CSS, along with a script that I've set to defer, which will mean it'll run once the page is ready. I've also added a button and a file input control that we'll make use of as we go through the video. Let's cover the basics of blobs and how they work. A blob is essentially a file-like object that holds binary data, anything from an image or video to a piece of text. They're immutable, which means we can't change them, but we can create new ones by slicing parts of a blob and combining them together. Let's say we're working with an image file. Instead of loading the entire file into memory, we can use a blob to hold the data more efficiently. Blobs can then be converted to object URLs that we can set as a source of an image element. We can also convert them to a base64 string, which can be copied and used across other websites, unlike object URLs. We can create a blob like this, passing in the data as an array of strings, array buffers and so on, and we can also pass in blobs if we want to merge them together. We also need to specify the MIME type, which in this case is text plain. If you're creating a text editor, this is a perfect example of why you'd want to use a blob to convert the user's text into a file-like object that can be downloaded. So let's see how we do just that as we explore object URLs. We can turn the blob into a URL using the createObjectURL function like so. If we check in the console, you can see the URL has been created as expected. Let's now download this blob as a file using the object URL. I'll first of all add a click event listener to the download button. And when the user clicks the button, we'll create an anchor element, setting the file name to hello.txt and the href attribute to our object URL. We can then simulate a click on the element, which will trigger a download. Let's see if it works. And there we are, the file is downloaded. We can do this for other MIME types as well. If we wanted to download the page as a HTML file, we can use the document elements out to HTML and change the file name. And there we have our downloaded file. Let's move on and see how we can convert a chosen file to a base64 string. We'll allow the user to select a file from their device and display it in the browser. I've added in two constants, one for the input control and another for the container that we'll add the image to. Let's start by writing a change event listener that will get triggered when the user chooses a file. We'll then use a file reader with the reader's data URL function, and for the purposes of this video, we'll assume the file is a valid image. But before we do this, we need to add in a load event handler, which will run once the image file has been loaded. We can then append the image element to the container and set the source to this.result, which will be the base64 string. Let's test it out by selecting an image file. If we inspect the image element here, you can see this really long base64 string, which when decoded, gives us the image. And this is a really good way of converting an image to a string, which can be easily sent in the body of a fetch request, for example. If you want to dive deeper into creating image upload previews like this, check out this video on the channel. But let's finish off by using a stream to decode blob data. If you're dealing with large data like audio and video files, you might want to use a stream to decode it. I've set up a uint data array, which contains some binary data. In this case, it's actually a string that reads hello world. We can set up a blob like we did earlier, but this time, we'll use the octet stream MIME type. We can use stream.getReader, and then call the read function, which returns a promise. If you saw the video I did covering promises, you'll know that we need to use then to get the result when the promise resolves. Given that this data is only text, we'll use the text decoder, setting the encoding to UTF-8, and then calling the decode function like so. Let's output that to the console. And there we are. If you're looking for some example apps, I've created a suite of desktop and Android apps that are all open source, and I've also made a language and insight built with Eleventy that's 100% free. Check them both out in the description down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to keep up to date with the latest from Azul Coding. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.